Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I am Scott McMeans with Action Coach. I got to say, I am encouraged and enthused to have Mike Cottrill on the line with me today from NgageContent. We're going to talk about his marketing firm. We're going to talk about his story, and we're going to learn a little bit about how to make your business better and more approachable online. So with that being said, Mike, I want to turn the microphone and the camera over to you. Tell us your story. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about yourself and how you got here.
Well, you're the first person in many years to say they're enthused to talk with me, Scott. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So my story is, I think this is common in my world, which is like the marketing consulting world, sort of an accidental business owner, right? I have a journalism degree. I started off in newspapers. For those who are watching, if you don't remember newspapers, they used to print the internet out, drop it on your front door, and you'd like open it up and read the internet. So I started in newspapers. Obviously, wasn't the route to go as we got into the 2000s. Switched over to magazines. And it was when I was at a magazine here in Cleveland that I really first learned about SEO and online marketing. And so by virtue of being the youngest guy in the room, the guy who had the first iPhone at the time, they were like, hey, you're in charge of the website. And I fell in love. It applied to my journalism sensibilities of like research, crunching the numbers, kind of figuring out where the data was. And I fortunately along the way met my business partner, JD, who other than my wife is the best and longest partnership I've had. And he came from an agency background. I came from this content world. And, I think like a lot of younger business owners at the time, we both went, well, we work for people who are dumb and we're really smart. So when we run the business, it'll be super easy because we're really smart. And so about 10 years ago, we hung our flag up and said, we're the really smart guys who are in charge. Now it's going to be easy. And of course, it hasn't been easy at all. And now we're the dumb guys. We're the dumb old guys. And all of our employees go, boy, that seems like it should be easier. But total accident, right? Starting from newspapers and all of a sudden I'm the SEO and website guy. And it only makes sense in sort of like the looking back at it, but it's been a great run for me.
I love the idea of making the change. And I think what most people don't understand when you become a business owner, the number one thing you have to have is the ability to pivot, the ability to see opportunity and challenge and merge them into either something you're going to attack or something you're going to avoid. And it sounds like, you've got a history of you were writing in printed newspaper and then moved to magazines. And then by hook or by crook, you're the online marketing guy because you're the only one with an iPhone.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about either fortuitous or unbelievable coincidence. Either way, you found your path. And I think what people can learn from that is no matter what the universe throws at you, it's your ability to adapt and pivot that makes the change possible. Yeah. So when we talk about NgageContent, what is it that you use to best describe your agency?
So this is great because we've refined this and I think we refine it every couple of years based on where we help the most. And so we tell people now we are the growth marketing people for B2B businesses. So that is refined a lot because growth marketing to us means we have the strategy, we have the services, and we bring a tech stack with us. And so it's really like a philosophy on what you need. And that has changed, right? I think when you run into other agencies or even other marketing consultants, we find a lot of them are a little bit guilty of being railroad track consultants, meaning they'll just kind of lay down and you tell them what you want, and then they go try and do it. And you may not, and I'm not saying you, Scott, I'm saying the royal you, but you may not be the best marketing person, right? And so we have clients come, I want this on my website, and we'll go, it's dumb. And I'm sorry, maybe we'll say it nicer than that, but like you actually need a strategy and a philosophy. And so the hardest thing for us in staying unique is when we bring new people and training them, like the client isn't always right. The client always knows their goal. The client always is right about their goal, but they aren't necessarily a full understanding of the tactics. And so they need someone to come and push back on them and say, here's the strategy, here's the tactic, and here's the tech that goes with that. And that's why we say growth marketing versus, we can say digital or inbound marketing, but it really is like, this is marketing to grow your business and you need the full piece to come together.
I love that. I love the idea of the goal is always right, but the path needs pushing, whether it's a push back or a push forward on their idea.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Let's push that forward. Or no, 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 that doesn't fit your goal. That's not going to help you get your goal. So let me ask you, Mike, how do people receive that level of feedback?
It depends, right? And so, I mean, I think as we've grown and changed too, we ourselves will kind of raise the flag early on and go, Scott, I'm not sure you're going to be receptive to this.
Mhm.
Let's have the shared goal, but this is how you kind of need to get there. And, some people, it's going to be their way or the highway, and we'll tell them, and I don't even mean this in a mean way, you can find a marketing person on, some website, some freelance website, who will write what you want them to write, who will build your website the way you want it built. And that's okay. A lot of businesses do that. If you're looking to hit your goal, this is kind of working backwards from your goal where you need to go. And the people who are really receptive to that that's where we find our clients for life. And I think they appreciate it. Because again, we're not doing it in a cruel way. It's just, you know,
No.
I go to a gym and they go work out this way, and I can't just go like, well, what if I just randomly like raised one dumbbell with my right arm? Would my chest get bigger? And they're like, well, no, like that's not that doesn't make any sense. And so I think the best clients really appreciate that. And we end up having these really deep, long relationships. You'll hear me say client for life a lot. And I always talk about the
Oh,
first website my partner and I built in 2014. That client's still a client today.
that's
And,
wow.
it's that pushback that we've given them along the way to, hey, I get your goal. I love your goal. Here's how we think we should get there together.
And I'm going to do a little self promotion here because I think it makes sense. So bear with me. One of the things that makes Action Coach so successful is we call it a coupling of knowledge. Okay. I don't need to be the expert in your market or in your industry. I'm an expert on making better business people, making businesses better.
Yeah.
You're the expert in your field. So if you're looking at somebody in a B2B world and they're trying to be better at marketing and you're the expert in the marketing space, take their knowledge, take your knowledge and expertise and build this unbelievable, formidable force that can accomplish anything. That's
Yes.
that's our philosophy. That's the way I look at it. So I can be somewhat agnostic to the business that I work with, and I'm assuming you can be as well, but you do have your niches. But I think it's interesting that people need to understand I am hiring you to be my eyes and ears for marketing because that's your expertise. I'm just going to tell you my information and tell you what I want to do in this market.
Yep.
Boom, it comes together. I think more people need to be more open to the idea of humility will allow you to get greatness. That's something I think a lot of people are a little struggling or struggle with.
I agree.
So, Mike, have you ever fired a client?
Yeah. Oh
Okay. And
yeah.
and this is
Yeah.
something that I think new business owners need to understand as well. If they don't fit your philosophy, if they don't follow your vision or your goal or your ethics, how do you keep somebody on board as a client just because they're giving you money? I think it's a tough one. So walk me through what happened when you fired a client.
So, it's so interesting because I think, you and I talked briefly this morning about as you grow in the business. And so, I think let's go back to 2014. It's just my business partner and I, and the first sort of iteration of the business was, we'll just build you a website. I had the content background. My business partner had to build
Mhm.
websites. So, we would build you a website in 4 days. And that's like, I'd write the content and JD would build the site. And, I think our client requirement at that point was, do you have a pulse? And did you make the down payment? Right? Like, great, Scott, you're the best client we've ever had. You seem alive and you made the down payment. We're in. And of course, as I talked about, as we've refined over the years, you learn that clients who are more collaborative are going to be better for themselves. They're going to have better results if they're working with you toward this shared goal. And so over the years, we've done a couple of kind of purges of firing clients where we go, as we've refined, we sort of reset the definition ourselves and go, this is what we're learning about ourselves, right? It's kind of like maturing as a person. It's
Yeah.
maturing as a business and going, we are much better. We used to do more B2C websites. B2C websites are very different than B2B websites. They just require a different skill set. They require different time management. And candidly, they require 24/7, which is hard
Mhm.
to scale the business because most people that we hire for building websites don't want to work on Sundays. But if you sell shoes online, you're working on Sundays, right? Like your site
Yeah.
goes down, it's a huge problem. So over the years, we've refined, and what we've done at each stage is go, who fits? And this is a Sandler sales thing that I'm a big advocate of with my account managers, but like we go through a care exercise each year. So keep is like, who do we keep? Who do we attain? Who do we renew? Who do we expand? And then we've added a cut. And then who do we cut?
Yeah.
And the cut doesn't mean I call you up tomorrow and go, Scott, we've been together 3 years, but I was just thinking about it and screw off. It's
No.
right. I mean, like we're going to live up to the thing that we've agreed to do with you. But as we get toward renewal, we're going to be honest and go, this is where we think it needs to go. And it's okay if that's not a fit. And I think that was received the first time we did it, I was so scared. And the idea of turning down any revenue when you're small and young is hard.
Scary.
And I thought, oh, if I tell Scott to go away, he'll never come back, and I won't know how to refill him. And so part of it had to be having the confidence of we were right in what we could do, and if we let go of this client, we'd find a better fit client. Yes. And as we've done that each time and replaced with better fits, where we get better results, we're happier working with them. The client's happier in the end. It makes it easier each time to evaluate and go, XYZ client just isn't a fit for us right now. Again, we're going to live through the scope that we have with them, and we're going to be candid with them and just say, like, if you want to go this way, we can continue to help. If this is the way you want to do it,
we're not for you.
We're just not going to be a good fit. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you have a bad business. Doesn't mean that we don't like you or love you. It's just not a fit.
No, and I think that's a great recognition of your own power and your own value proposition. One of the things that is constantly pushed in you as a marketer know that what is your company's unique selling proposition? What do you do differently than anybody else? What is it that you bring to the table that nobody can touch? Okay. That's what you need to really fall back on. And if you don't have that, you better create it. Better create it awfully quick. Otherwise you're run-of-the-mill commodity and nobody really cares about commodities. Now it's all price driven. Right. So great question. I've asked and I've been asked, and I'm curious your comment on it. Profit or value, which comes first?
Ooh. That is a great question.
Yeah. Because it falls right in line in this conversation. Yeah. That's why it's such a great question.
Here's the honest answer, right? Kind of what I said before. I think now it's value. I don't think I would have told you that in 2014 to 2017.
Right. Because you wanted that money, right?
It's, you have to be, when we talk to our team internally, we tell them all the time, and I don't know that the younger employees always appreciate this, but like, it's a great spot to be in, to be a debt-free, profitable company, because we are completely in charge of our own journey, right? Like every year, if we next year decided we only wanted to do e-commerce, which we wouldn't, but let's say we did that, we could do it, we could self-fund it, right? And so when you have that as a strength because of the profit initially, now I can lead with value, right? And go, correct. This is what we do. This is, you talked a moment ago about kind of where your unique value prop is. And I always talk to our team, and this is true of individual contributors and the company as a whole, is like, what's our superpower? Okay. Yeah. So let's make sure we're leading with our superpower. That's a value in the company, and that lets us do things differently. But we can do that because we're profitable. We can do that because we've been profitable for, basically 9 years, right? To year one, obviously, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But for the last 9 years, right? We've been debt free. We run our own ship, so I'm able to lead that way.
You can do a lot more, and decisions aren't made on the financial side; they're made on the value side. Yeah. And the value has two different definitions in this context, right? It's the value you provide your customers and the values that you have as an organization. And that's why it's such an interesting question. And one of the best answers I've ever heard was somebody said, if you provide value, regardless of your price point, if you provide value, profit always follows suit. It just does. That's true. Okay. Yeah. So the great conversation, Mike, I got to ask you, since you brought it up, what is your superpower at NgageContent?
The organization or mine? Because
let's do the organization first, and then we'll talk about Mike.
Yeah. All right. So the organization, so I mentioned that we're kind of willing to push back, and that is aligned with our number one superpower, which is we're going to dig in and find the solution that fits you, and not just go. And again, everybody has the same kind of marketing problems, but we're going to find the solution for you. On the SEO side, we're going to find the unique opportunity for you. On the website, the unique opportunity for you. And so I think a lot of agencies fall into this is what we do, this is how we do it. We're going to come with a philosophy on a tech stack and a strategy, but we're going to dig in specific to you. And I would tell you the $100 thing, don't tell the other agencies. So if they're listening, cover your ears. The $100 thing that we do is we talk with the salespeople and the leaders in the organization and go, Scott, tell me what you said in the last meeting you're in. And then we do what they just told us as a Venn diagram with their digital and online messaging. And 100% of the time, there's no Venn diagram there. Scott
They
says,
don't match.
we're the best at this. You go to their website and it's like, we provide value for B2B manufacturing, shipping of parts. And the salespeople are like, we're the best price, we're the best quality, we're the only ISO certified. And none of that appears in their marketing. And we go, there's this huge gap, right? And that's our superpowers. We go, look at this gap. You can sell $15 million worth of sprockets a year, and your website doesn't even tell anyone that you sell sprockets.
Crazy.
Let's start there, right?
Yeah. There's an interesting point. When I was in sales, I loved the phrase, nothing happens until a sales rep sells something. And they are 100% right. Nothing happens. But what's interesting is once you get into the marketing and the business operational side, right? And you realize, oh, well, a salesperson doesn't know who to sell to, what to sell, how to sell it, or what price to sell it until a marketing person tells them what's going on. So you have to merge those words. So if your message is aligned from the time they click on your website to the time a sales rep shows up at the door, you've beaten most of your competitors. And that's fundamental. That's an amazing superpower.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about fundamental, like, well, when we talk about SEO on websites, like this is SEO 101, this is website 101. I can't tell you how many times we talk to the salesperson, we're like, we're building you a new website. And they go, well, I don't use the website, so I don't care. Well, why don't you use the website? Oh, I would never send anyone to our website. It doesn't say what we do. Okay, well, yeah, let's start there. Like, you have a huge problem. Because if you and I talk today, and this is the first time we've ever talked, what am I going to do? I'm going to go look at your website. And if you just told me 10 things and none of those 10 things are on your website, we have a trust issue, right? Out of the gate. And now I kind of go, maybe these guys don't know what they're doing, right? It's a credibility issue.
No, it's great. It's not great for somebody who doesn't have those things aligned.
Right.
So what's Mike's superpower? What do you bring to the table when you go inside the phone booth? They used to exist, and change out of your glasses and suit and tie. What's underneath?
Yeah, so this has changed for me. The fun thing about being a business, so it used to be sales for me, right? And I used to say, like, I can go to anyone that has some marketing need and I could sell to them. And so coming as a writer and switching into sales, I felt like that was it. Now I have people on the team who can sell and I think can do it better than I can. I think the value prop for me now, what I always think about is I'm the one who's constantly looking at what's around the bend in marketing. And I see how, like, the matrix is kind of coming together. So, this could be a whole separate podcast, but like the way AI is coming in right now, and there's some great things about AI and there's some dangers about AI. Like, that's my world. And then I know our business well enough to turn around and apply it backward. And so my superpower is that, like, you mentioned earlier, it's how you sort of change with the times and go forward.
Yes.
10 years ago when we started, right, we're a completely different business today, and the tools that we use and our approach and how we use things. And 10 years from now, it'll be totally different. So who's in charge of that? And that kind of falls to me.
I love the idea that strategic view is a superpower, because it's what a business owner should have, right? Remove yourself from the day-to-day and focus in on the business, not focus in the business.
It's hard to do, right? And I won't say that I don't get pulled out of the phone booth and back into writing the Clark Kent articles. That certainly happens. But when I'm free, when I'm doing the strategic things I need to do, right? That's what energizes me about the business now. So 10 years in my 40s, how do you get excited about the business for the next 10 years? I go, oh man, there's some 28-year-old version of me out there who's ready to come kick my butt. And he knows everything about AI, or she knows everything about the new version of SEO. Like, he or she's dying to replace me. So I have to be, I have to be.
You know what, Mike, as a business owner, you want them to replace you. That way you can go sit on a beach and just reward yourself with a business well done.
Oof. Well, yeah, I'm terrible at that, but I aspire.
Right?
I aspire to do that.
Is that not what you want to do, though, as a business owner? You want to have a team of people that do a job for you and allow you to live the life you've always wanted to live as a business owner. Don't get me wrong. Your passion to do the work that you do and do it for the people that you do it for is of the utmost priority. And I love the idea that some people do that. But you also got to recognize, I really opened a business because I wanted to have a business that would work without me being there, and I can make money with other people helping me.
Have a
And the
good
great
life.
thing is, you've got a team, if I remember right, you have a team of about 20 people
Yep.
in varying capacities. And what I noticed on your website, which I think is really pivotal, and hear me out, you've got junior copywriter, junior designer, and then you've got lead copywriter, lead designer. You've got these layers, which allows me to believe that NgageContent is set up for progression. It's set up for growth because you've got people that recognize, all right, I'm not at the level I want to be, but there's a spot in this org chart with that I want, but it doesn't have my name in it yet.
Well said.
That's a
Yeah.
huge piece, right? How many businesses don't have an organizational chart that shows today and in 10 years from now what the business is going to look like? That's an encouraging point of view for people to actually take a look at and say, all right, I know there's not a name in that box right there, but I want that. I want that job.
Yeah.
How do I get it? Right.
Yeah.
And as a junior copywriter, all right, well, I can learn from my peers. I can learn from somebody in the organization that's going to give me the autonomy, the authority, and the ability to move forward and do something with a little bit of risk.
Yes.
That's a successful business right there.
Beautifully said. I mean, that's exactly, we're always pleased if you look at our org chart, and anyone who is, in a director level position or a senior, like we have a senior, you mentioned junior copywriter. We have a senior copywriter, Jessica, who's fantastic. The lead for our content team, Jason, who's been with us for 5 years. They all started as either junior copywriters, junior web designers, junior graphic designers, and then they've grown in the organization. So, the thing that I tell my team, so I run the account and sales team still, and I tell my account managers all the time, because I think that they both can do it. I have a one-on-one with them every Wednesday morning. I'm like, please take my job. Like, Hannah, Katie, be the CEO. Like, you tell me when you're ready. I will help. Like, I don't want to be the CEO forever, because again, I'm always kind of like, what's the next job for me? I've had almost every job in the organization, and I think there's another new job for me out there. And maybe when they're CEO, they won't think that way. I go, well, your new job is to quietly sit on the porch. But
if that's what you want to do, right? But if that's what you want to do, then gladly sit on the porch.
Right? Yeah.
Sit on the porch. I love the direction of the conversation. I do want to ask you about some of the bigger challenges that you've faced from 2014 to now, right? You've got NgageContent up and running, but I'm certain there was a glitch or something that took place that you'd like to talk about to at least educate the audience on. This is how you manage some of these challenges.
I mean, how many glitches? How much time do we have? So, I don't think it would be a surprise to say 2020 was the hardest year for us. Yeah. I think we'll say that COVID started this, but that's sort of boring at this point, meaning like every business 2020 COVID hit and it was really hard. I think what was really interesting to us is in 2020, we had this sort of stop go thing. And then we hit this acceleration that we'd never hit before, which is really interesting. Meaning in March of 2020, I had a week where 5 clients, all of whom we had contracts with for the rest of the year, called me and said, we got to bail. We don't know what the heck's happening. And Scott, in a week, I lost $16,000 a month in revenue. Like, wow. It was just, people are like, you got to let us out. I mean, we have outs in our contracts. We'll pay the last month or whatever, but like, we're done. And I'm sitting there in March of 2020. I just sent our people home from our office in downtown Cleveland, said it'll be 2 weeks, we'll be back. We never went back to that office. I cleaned it up by myself on a Saturday. And so that's the COVID version. But what was really interesting, by June of that year, everyone went, well, we're not going anywhere. So we do need marketing, and we actually need online marketing. We're not doing trade shows this year. We're not going to meet face-to-face. And so the second half of that year, we were 50% bigger than we were in the first half of that year. So COVID aside, all of a sudden, dude, I'm on a rocket ship for me, right? Yeah. Like we'd never had a year where we'd grown more than 25%, in the 6 years before that. And all of a sudden, month over month growth is like 40% one month. So now we got to hire faster. We got to move faster. And so that the TLDR is we had to quickly figure out, how do we go from 7 people to like we're 15 within a year of that, and keep up the quality and keep up the culture? Oh, by the way, the culture is now remote, right? And we had to do all of this overnight. So that was probably the biggest challenge we've ever faced. And I wouldn't put that on anyone to grow like that out of nowhere, particularly when you're coming at it from a defensive stance, like, oh, we're about to go out of business, we're getting hit. And now all of a sudden, It's, and the old thing, like more businesses die from overeating than starvation. All of a sudden we're overeating, right?
Yeah.
And I was certainly overeating that year. Um, so
Yep.
yeah,
Okay, so once again, I wrote down the word pivot
yes,
because a challenge to an opportunity in the span of less than 3 months, you went from, holy cow, I don't know what we're going to do to survive, to all of a sudden we have to hire more people. And this is important, Mike. The fact that you mentioned two words, quality and culture, as
yeah,
something that needed to be maintained and sustained throughout that alteration and that change means a lot more about your credibility as a leader than it does just as a marketer. And I mean that with true sincerity, because most businesses abandon culture when times get tough, and it's their culture that allows them to get through the tough times. And you can see it when a business does not have a strong culture, it falls apart because there's nobody there holding up the pillars. It all just kind of crumbles around them. So I
yeah.
give you tons of kudos for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
A wild
Knowing
ride.
all this, what is the one piece of advice you'd give a business owner? Somebody who started out trying to figure out their themselves from a hole in the ground.
Oh yeah. So I think about this a lot, right? If I go back and talk to myself in 2014, I mean, I wouldn't listen, because that was, again, I thought I could do it. But if I go back and talk to myself in 2015, 2016, and even 2017, like that's when you're in your grind. And when you're in your grind, I think it's easy to lose. You see the light at the end of the tunnel to making a successful business, but it's like that little pinhole light. It's not a
Yeah.
light. And when you're in your grind, because you're so in it and you learn so fast, and it's so important to be on the grind, you do kind of close yourself off, or at least I did. You close yourself off to the fact that, like you're a business coach, right? You close yourself off to the fact that other people have done this. There's some roadmap there. There is help out there. You just dig in sometimes and feel like I'm the only one who can solve these things, because when it goes bad, it all falls on me anyway.
Right.
And the best things that we did. So I went through Sandler sales training a million years ago at a different job. I started putting my account managers through Sandler sales training. Let them hear from somebody else. Even though I'm telling them the Sandler thing, it's like your kids in your voice, right? Like they just kind of tune it out eventually.
Yep.
Let them go do that. And it would seem prohibitively expensive at the time. And it's the return on that investment is 100 times,
Yes.
right? Because they go learn from someone else. They see that there is a philosophy. We talk about like that quality control. Well, here's how I do some of that quality controls. They have training in this, right? Similarly, we started like this. The hardest $600 I ever spent was I started to pay an outsourced bookkeeper $600 a month, which felt like, how are we going to
Ridiculous.
afford
Yeah.
this? To go through my QuickBooks, do the reconciliation, automate things for me. Because I mean, I was going through QuickBooks every week by myself, like, I bought a
Yeah.
hat for the client. Like, and I mean, I couldn't get myself to spend the $600. And now she's still with us, by the way. She, like, from 7 years ago, she makes more than $600 now, what she earns. And she's still with us. And everything she set up in QuickBooks, all the automations still work. I don't go to QuickBooks maybe twice a month, And
Yeah.
again, you can look at your books and obviously verify, but like, I mean, dude, I don't know. I was spending 20 hours a week worrying about the books, and all of a sudden I could just make that problem disappear with somebody who's an expert at that. So,
Yeah.
I think you can hire too early and too soon and spend too much, but like good consultants, good partners, good vendors, man, I was closed-minded to that for a long time. My partner and I were like, we can just figure it all out ourselves. And that pinhole, got about this big once I went like, oh God, there are people who do this for a living, right? There are good accountants, there are good attorneys, and they're hard to find, but good accountants, good attorneys, good coaches, good vendors, and you cannot do everything, even though you can still be on your grind.
We just said this full circle conversation now, if you think about it, right? There's a coupling of knowledge.
Yeah.
You are trying to run a business and you're also trying to get your bookkeeping done. Well, hire somebody who's really good at bookkeeping. That way you don't have to do it anymore, right? Let them
Yes.
be the expert in that field, take care of it for you. And again, as you keep adding different people to your team, 20 some strong, you're not doing copywriting, you're not doing
Right.
SEO stuff. You're coordinating a machine that does this activity for you in the various capacities. And I think what makes it special is you give people the autonomy, the authority, and the activity to go do it. Just go do it. I
Yep.
trust you. I trust you. There's been a lot that we've talked about today. This is awesome. One last question. I've got 2 minutes. One last
Okay.
question for you.
Ooh,
Okay.
2 minutes. Okay, I'll try.
Mark, you're going to go sit down on a park bench next to an 18-year-old you.
Ooh, that guy. Yeah, okay.
What do you say to him?
First off, look how handsome and in shape you are. Hang on to that, because that's going to go away once you had a couple of kids in a business. Yeah, I think the thing that I would say to that 18-year-old who knew at 18 he wanted to go into journalism, had been in high school journalism, had covered like professional wrestling events as a stringer for the Akron Beacon Journal, that kid that knew he wanted to go into journalism, I would say the thing that's going to serve you, that makes you want to go into journalism, is you're really curious about how things work. Never stop doing that and asking questions. It'll serve you well. And I think that with my kids now, I've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, is like, just ask people how it works. They'll tell you. Point,
I love it.
Your point this week, like point at the roller coaster, be like, how did they do that?
Yeah,
Right?
that's the foundation of it all. And Ted Lasso brought that to the forefront. Don't be judgmental, be curious. And that to me is it opens doors, is really what
Great
it does.
scene in that show. Yeah. Fantastic scene.
Mark, Mike, I want to say thank you. This has been awesome. I will have all your information down there, your email, your phone number, your website, everything that anybody needs to get in touch with you. I encourage our audience to take a click, get to the website, and see exactly what they do at NgageContent, because you'll be impressed. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see everybody on the next episode of Business
This was
Spotlight.
great, man. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. See ya.